Admiral Lisa Carter stood at the wide window of Sentinel Prime Station, watching the stars. She had done this every morning for 11 years. The coffee in her cup had gone cold again, but she did not notice. Her eyes searched the darkness beyond Earth's moon, looking for something that would never come back. The HSV Endeavour had been gone for 11 years now. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew of 347 people had vanished without a trace. They were supposed to explore the space beyond the Veil Nebula and return in 2 years. Instead, they had disappeared completely. No signals, no wreckage, nothing at all. Lisa had been Jake's friend since their academy days. She still remembered his last message before the ship jumped into hyperspace. He had smiled and promised to bring back something amazing. The search teams had looked for 3 years before giving up. Everyone said the crew was dead. A sharp beep from the sensor station made Lisa turn around. Lieutenant Ben Cross looked confused as he stared at his screen. The young officer had been working the morning shift for 6 months, and Lisa had never seen him look so puzzled. "Admiral," Ben said slowly, "I'm getting a weird reading on the long-range sensors." Lisa walked over to his station. The sensor display showed a large object moving toward Earth at incredible speed. It was big, much bigger than any ship in the human fleet. But something about the energy signature looked familiar. "Run a full scan," Lisa ordered. "Get me everything you can on that contact." Ben's fingers flew across the controls. More data appeared on the screen. Lisa felt her heart stop when she saw the ship's identification code. It was impossible, but there it was in bright green letters, HSV Endeavour. "That can't be right," Ben whispered. "The Endeavour was destroyed years ago." Lisa grabbed the communications panel. "This is Admiral Carter to all stations. We have an unidentified vessel approaching Earth. All defense ships are to assume alert positions, but do not fire unless fired upon." The next few hours passed like a dream. The ship that claimed to be the Endeavour moved through the solar system without stopping. It ignored all attempts at communication. When it finally slowed down near Luna Station, Lisa could see it clearly through the telescopes. It was the Endeavour, but it looked different. The hull still had the same basic shape, but strange metallic patterns covered the surface. These patterns seemed to move and flow like water. Sometimes they glowed with a soft blue light. No human technology could do that. Lisa took a shuttle to Luna Station to meet the returning ship. Her hands shook as she watched the Endeavour dock with the station. After 11 years of wondering, she would finally know what happened to Jake and his crew. The docking bay filled with security officers and medical teams. Everyone wanted to be there when the airlock opened. Lisa pushed through the crowd to stand at the front. She needed to see Jake first. The airlock hissed open with a soft sound. A figure stepped out, and Lisa's breath caught in her throat. It was Jake Morrison, but he looked exactly the same as he had 11 years ago. He should have been older, maybe with gray hair or wrinkles. Instead, he looked like he had not aged a single day. Jake's eyes found Lisa in the crowd. He smiled the same warm smile she remembered, but something was different about his eyes. They seemed deeper, like they held secrets too big for one person to carry. "Hello, Lisa," Jake said. His voice sounded the same, but there was something else there. A quality she could not name. More crew members walked out of the ship. Lisa recognized Dr. Emma Walsh, the chief science officer, and Tony Rodriguez, the head of engineering. Like Jake, they all looked exactly as they had 11 years ago. But they all had that same strange quality in their eyes. The medical team moved forward with their equipment. Dr. Paul Hayes, the station's chief medical officer, held up a scanner. "Captain Morrison," Dr. Hayes said, "we need to run some basic health checks before you can leave the docking bay." Jake held up his hand. "I'm sorry, Doctor, but we don't have time for that. We need to speak with the Galactic Council immediately. There's something coming, and Earth needs to be ready." Dr. Hayes frowned. "Sir, regulations require all returning deep space crews to undergo medical examination. We need to make sure you're not carrying any diseases or parasites." "We're not sick," said Dr. Emma Walsh as she stepped forward. "But we are different. We had to change to survive what we found out there." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. "Jake, what happened to you? Where have you been for 11 years? Jake looked at his crew members. They all nodded slightly as if they were sharing some kind of silent conversation. Lisa noticed that they never seemed to speak to each other, but they always knew what the others were thinking. "We found something, Lisa," Jake said quietly. "Something terrible and wonderful at the same time." We found the ruins of 17 different galaxies, all destroyed by the same enemy. And that enemy is coming here. The docking bay fell silent. Everyone stared at Jake and his crew. The security officers moved their hands closer to their weapons, but Lisa motioned for them to stay calm. What kind of enemy? Lisa asked. They call themselves the Devourers, Emma Walsh said. They eat entire galaxies, turning billions of stars into nothing but cold, empty space. They've done it 17 times before, and our galaxy is next. Tony Rodriguez stepped forward. We spent 11 years learning how to fight them. We had to change ourselves, become something more than human. It was the only way to gain the knowledge we needed. Jake looked directly at Lisa. We're still human, Lisa. We're still your friends. But we're also something new. Something that can stand against the dark and protect everything we love. Lisa felt the weight of command settling on her shoulders. If Jake was telling the truth, then humanity faced a threat beyond anything they had ever imagined. But if he was lying, or if something had taken control of him and his crew, then Earth might be in danger from a completely different source. I need to know everything, Lisa said finally. Everything that happened to you, everything you learned, and everything that's coming our way. Jake nodded. We'll tell you everything, Lisa. But you need to understand that once you know the truth, there's no going back. The universe is much bigger and much more dangerous than any of us ever imagined. As Lisa looked at her old friend's familiar face with those strange, deep eyes, she knew that everything was about to change. The question was whether humanity would survive what was coming, or if they would become just another empty galaxy floating in the dark. The meeting room in Luna Station was packed with the most important people in the human government. Admiral Lisa Carter sat at the head of the long table, watching Jake Morrison and his crew prepare to share their story. Senator Richard Blake looked angry and suspicious from his seat across the table. Dr. Amanda Foster, the head of Human Science Research, leaned forward with curiosity. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they seemed to glow with a faint blue light. The easiest way to explain what happened is to show you, he said. But we need volunteers who are willing to let us share our memories directly. Senator Blake slammed his hand on the table. Absolutely not. We don't know what you people have become. You could be trying to control our minds or infect us with some alien disease. Dr. Foster raised her hand. I volunteer. If there's a chance to understand what happened, we need to take it. Lisa nodded. I'll volunteer too. If Jake wanted to hurt us, he could have done it already. Jake smiled sadly. Thank you for trusting us, Lisa, but I need to warn you. What you're about to see will change how you think about everything. The universe is not the safe place we thought it was. Emma Walsh moved behind Dr. Foster's chair. Just relax and keep your mind open. We won't hurt you, but the memories might be overwhelming. Emma placed her hands gently on Dr. Foster's temples. The room fell silent as everyone watched. Suddenly, Dr. Foster's eyes went wide. She began to shake and tears started running down her face. My God, Dr. Foster whispered. The size of it. The emptiness. All those dead worlds. For the next hour, Jake's crew shared their memories with volunteer after volunteer. Each person who experienced the mental link came away shaken and frightened. Lisa was the last to volunteer. When Emma's hands touched her head, the world disappeared. Lisa found herself floating in the darkness of space, but she could see and breathe as if she were still human. In front of her stretched a massive structure that seemed to go on forever. It was made of some kind of metal that shifted colors like oil on water. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing with different colors. This is the archive, Jake's voice said in her mind. We found it drifting at the edge of our galaxy 11 years ago. The scene changed, and Lisa was walking through corridors inside the structure. The walls were covered with images and data from civilizations she had never seen before. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange she could barely understand what she was looking at. 17 different galaxies, Emma's voice explained. Each one had millions of different species. Some were peaceful, others were warriors. Some were so advanced they could build stars. But they all had one thing in common. The images on the walls began to move. Lisa watched in horror as she saw worlds being consumed by darkness. Stars went out one by one until entire solar systems were nothing but empty space. She saw species fighting desperately against enemies that looked like living shadows with too many teeth. The Devourers, Tony's voice said. They come from the space between galaxies. They feed on organized energy, on life itself. They turn everything back into cold, empty nothing. Lisa saw the final moments of civilization after civilization. Some tried to run to other galaxies. Others built massive weapons to fight back. A few tried to hide in pocket dimensions or underground cities. None of it worked. The Devourers always found them and consumed everything. But one species found a different way, Jake said. The scene changed to show tall, graceful beings with 6 arms and crystalline skin. The Kethvar. They realized they couldn't fight the Devourers as they were. So they changed themselves. Lisa watched as the Kethvar used strange technology to transform their bodies and minds. They became faster, stronger, and smarter. Most importantly, they learned to share thoughts and work together as one giant mind while still keeping their individual personalities. For a while it worked, Emma explained. The evolved Kethvar could fight the Devourers directly. They won battle after battle. They thought they had found the answer. The images showed the Kethvar pushing the Devourers back, saving world after world. But then something changed. The Devourers learned and adapted. They began to corrupt the evolved beings, turning them against each other. The Kethvar's greatest strength became their weakness, Tony said sadly, because they shared thoughts. When one was corrupted, the infection spread to others. In the end, they destroyed themselves fighting each other while the Devourers consumed what was left of their galaxy. Lisa felt herself back in the meeting room, gasping for air. The memories felt more real than her own experiences. She could still see those empty galaxies in her mind, billions of dead worlds floating in the darkness. The archive contained all their knowledge, Jake said to the silent room. Everything they learned about the Devourers, all their failed strategies, and the technology they used to evolve themselves. We spent 11 years studying it all. Senator Blake's face was pale, but his voice was still angry. So you decided to use their alien technology on yourselves? You're not human anymore. We're more human than we ever were before, Emma replied calmly. The Kethvar made mistakes because they lost their individuality in the group mind. We learned from their errors. We kept our personalities, our creativity, our ability to think independently. We just enhanced what was already there. Dr. Foster wiped tears from her eyes. How long do we have? Jake and his crew exchanged those silent looks again. Our deep space sensors detected the first signs 3 months ago, Jake said. Gravitational distortions at the galaxy's edge. The Devourers send scouts ahead of their main force. We call them Harbingers. What do these Harbingers do? Lisa asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. They corrupt reality itself, Tony explained. They make space and time unstable. Planets start to fade away. People turn into things that shouldn't exist. The Harbingers prepare the way for the main force by weakening the barriers between dimensions. Emma pulled up a holographic display showing the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. Red dots marked 3 locations where space itself seemed to be twisted and wrong. 3 Harbingers have already entered our galaxy, she said. They're moving slowly, testing our defenses, learning about us. But behind them comes something much worse. The display zoomed out to show the space between galaxies. Dark shapes moved there, so massive they made entire star systems look like dust specks. There were thousands of them, all heading toward the Milky Way, the main Devourer fleet, Jake said quietly. Each ship is bigger than our solar system. They carry millions of Harbingers and weapons that can unmake planets by changing the laws of physics around them. Senator Blake stood up, his chair falling over. This is impossible. You're trying to scare us into accepting your alien contamination. I don't believe any of this. Jake looked at him with sad eyes. I wish you were right, Richard. I wish this was all just a nightmare. But in 18 months, maybe less, the first Devourer ships will reach the outer colonies. If we're not ready, humanity will become extinct along with every other species in this galaxy. Lisa felt the weight of command crushing down on her shoulders. If Jake was telling the truth, they faced an enemy that had already destroyed 17 galaxies. But if he was wrong, or if the evolution process had changed him and his crew into something dangerous, then humanity might be walking into a trap. What do you need from us? Lisa asked finally. Jake smiled, and for a moment he looked like the old friend she remembered. We need humanity to make a choice, Lisa. We need to decide if we're willing to change, to become something new in order to survive. Because staying exactly as we are means extinction. The room erupted in arguments as senators and scientists began shouting at each other. Some demanded immediate action, others called for caution, and a few insisted the whole thing was a hoax. Through it all, Jake and his crew sat quietly, their strange eyes watching everything with the patience of people who had seen entire civilizations fall. Lisa knew that whatever decision they made would determine the future of humanity. The question was whether they had the courage to evolve or the wisdom to stay human, and they were running out of time to choose. 3 weeks after the Endeavor's return, the human government had split into 3 groups. Admiral Lisa Carter led the first group from her command center on Earth. They called themselves the Evolutionists and believed humanity needed to change to survive. Senator Richard Blake controlled the second group from his base on Mars. His purists wanted to keep humanity exactly as it was, no matter the cost. Dr. Amanda Foster tried to hold the middle ground with her moderates, looking for a way to fight the Devourers without losing their humanity. The arguments had grown worse each day. Blake's supporters accused the evolved crew of being alien spies. Carter's people said the purists would doom humanity to extinction. Foster's group tried to find compromise, but fewer people listened to them as fear spread across the colonies. Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of Luna Station, watching Earth turn slowly below. Emma Walsh joined him at the window. They did not speak out loud, but their enhanced minds shared thoughts and feelings. "The first harbinger is moving faster than we expected," Emma said finally. "It will reach the New Colorado mining colony in 4 days." Jake nodded. "Have you told Lisa?" "She's preparing the defense fleet, but conventional weapons won't work against a harbinger. The entity exists partially outside normal space." Through the station's communication system, they could hear Admiral Carter giving orders to her ships. The woman had barely slept since learning about the Devourers. She was trying to protect humanity the only way she knew how, with military force and preparation. On Mars, Senator Blake was holding another rally against the alien contamination of humanity. His followers cheered as he promised to keep Earth's children pure and unmodified. Blake truly believed he was saving humanity's soul, even if it meant their bodies would die. Dr. Foster worked day and night in her laboratory, trying to find a middle path. She studied the Kethvar technology, looking for ways to enhance human abilities without the full evolution process. Her team had made some progress, but they were running out of time. The crisis came sooner than anyone expected. The Deep Space Monitoring Station at New Colorado sent its final transmission on a Tuesday morning. The message was simple and terrifying. Something is wrong with reality here. The stars are changing color. People are turning to crystal. Send help. Then silence. Lisa Carter assembled a rescue fleet within hours. 12 ships, the best the human navy had to offer. They jumped to hyperspace immediately, but Jake knew they would find nothing but empty space where New Colorado used to be. The fleet returned 3 days later with news that shook the entire human government. New Colorado was gone. Not destroyed, not evacuated, simply gone. The planet had been there for 200 years, home to 50,000 miners and their families. Now there was nothing but a hole in space where it used to orbit. Captain Susan Parker commanded the rescue fleet's lead ship. She was young, brave, and had volunteered for the first evolution trials. Her report to the Emergency Council was brief and frightening. "We found debris from the mining stations floating in space," Susan said. But it wasn't normal debris. Everything had been turned into some kind of crystal. The pieces sang when we got close to them, like they were trying to communicate. She played a recording of the sound. It was beautiful and horrible at the same time, like the voices of the dead calling from far away. Several council members had to leave the room. "The planet itself left a scar in space," Susan continued. "Our sensors couldn't get a clear reading, but it looked like reality had been torn open and then sealed again. Whatever did this operates on a level we can't understand with normal physics." Senator Blake stood up during the report. "This proves my point. The so-called Harbinger attacked after these evolved humans returned. Maybe they led it here. Maybe they're working with these Devourers." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "Senator, the Harbingers were already in the galaxy before we returned. We detected their signatures from the Archive's long-range sensors." "Convenient," Blake shot back. "You say you can detect them, but our best scientists can't. You claim to be the only ones who can fight them. How do we know you're not the real threat?" The argument that followed split the council completely. Half the members walked out with Blake, saying they would never trust the evolved humans. Others demanded immediate action to save more colonies. The moderates tried to keep everyone talking, but their voices were drowned out by the shouting. That night, Jake made a decision that would change everything. He contacted the volunteer evolution program that Dr. Foster had been developing in secret. 23 brave humans had already undergone partial modification to test the process. Among them were Susan Parker, Marine Sergeant Carl Johnson, and engineer Maya Chen. "We can't wait for the politicians to decide," Jake told the volunteers. "The harbingers are moving faster than expected. We need to act now." The volunteers agreed to undergo full evolution. The process took place in a hidden facility on the far side of the moon. Jake and his crew guided the transformation, sharing their knowledge and helping the new evolved humans adapt to their enhanced abilities. Susan Parker was the first to complete the change. Like Jake's crew, she looked the same but felt completely different. Her mind could process information at incredible speed. Her body was stronger and more resilient. Most importantly, she could sense the wrongness that harbingers brought to reality. "I can feel them," Susan said, her new abilities reaching out across space. "There are 3 of them in our galaxy. One is heading for the Titan research station. Another is moving toward the colony at New Shanghai. The third is still far away, but it's the strongest." Carl Johnson completed his evolution next. The big Marine sergeant had always been tough, but now he was something more. His enhanced senses could detect threats across multiple dimensions. His strength was enough to tear through armored bulkheads with his bare hands. "I feel like I could take on an army," Carl said, testing his new abilities. "But I'm still me inside. I still remember my daughter's birthday, still want to protect innocent people." Maya Chen's transformation gave her an intuitive understanding of technology that bordered on magic. She could interface directly with computer systems and understand alien devices just by touching them. Her mind worked on multiple levels at once, solving complex problems while maintaining normal conversations. The enhanced team trained for 2 weeks while the politicians continued to argue. They learned to coordinate their abilities, to fight as a unit while maintaining their individual strengths. Unlike the Kethvar, they never lost their personal identity in the group consciousness. The second attack came at the Titan research station. This time the evolved humans were ready. Susan led a strike team using ships modified with Kethvar technology. The vessels could phase partially out of normal space, making them immune to some of the Harbinger's reality warping effects. The battle was unlike anything in human history. The Harbinger appeared as a mass of living darkness that bent light and space around itself. It turned the research station's metal walls into flowing liquid and transformed the scientists into crystalline statues that screamed without sound. But the evolved humans could fight back. Their enhanced perception let them see the Harbinger's true form across multiple dimensions. Their modified weapons fired energy that existed outside normal physics. Most importantly, their shared consciousness allowed perfect coordination without losing individual creativity. Susan Parker flew her ship directly into the creatures' center while Carl Johnson and Maya Chen attacked from the sides. The Harbinger fought back, trying to corrupt their minds and twist their bodies into impossible shapes. But the evolved humans had learned from the Kethvar's mistakes. They stayed connected to each other while maintaining their humanity. The fight lasted 6 hours. In the end, the Harbinger retreated, wounded but not destroyed. It left behind a damaged space station and 37 people turned to crystal. But for the first time, humanity had driven back one of the entities that served the Devourers. The victory came at a political cost. When news of the battle reached Earth, Senator Blake accused the evolved humans of staging the entire event. He claimed they had created fake enemies to justify their transformation. His supporters began calling for the evolved humans to be arrested as traitors to the human species. "We can't hold this forever," Carl Johnson reported from his ship. "The containment field is draining our power reserves. How long do we need?" Susan asked. Maya Chen's voice came through the communication network. "Evacuation is 60% complete. We need 4 more hours to get everyone off the planet." "Then we hold for 4 hours," Susan said simply, "no matter what it costs." The cost was higher than anyone expected. 3 ships were lost when the Harbinger broke through the containment field temporarily. 47 evolved humans died, keeping the creature contained. But in the end, they succeeded. New Shanghai's 12 million people escaped to safety while the Harbinger, weakened by the prolonged battle, retreated to the outer system. The victory was broadcast across human space, but reactions were mixed. Admiral Carter's supporters celebrated humanity's growing ability to fight the cosmic threat. Blake's purists claimed the entire battle was staged and that the real enemy was the evolved humans themselves. Dr. Foster's moderates wondered if there might have been a better way to save the colony without so much death and destruction. Meanwhile, deep space sensors detected disturbing news. The main Devourer fleet had accelerated its approach. What had been an 18-month timeline was now reduced to 8 months. Worse, the fleet was much larger than originally estimated. Thousands of massive ships were heading toward the Milky Way, each one carrying enough harbingers to corrupt entire star systems. Jake Morrison called a meeting of all the evolved humans in the solar system. They gathered in a secret facility on Europa, their enhanced minds linking together to share information and coordinate their response. "We need to tell them the final secret," Emma Walsh said. "The one we've been keeping from the political leaders." "They're not ready," Tony Rodriguez argued. "The purists are already calling us traitors. If we tell them about the galaxy-wide consciousness network, they'll think we're trying to take over their minds." Susan Parker, now the unofficial leader of the new evolved humans, considered the options. "How many people would we need for the network to work?" Jake answered reluctantly. "According to the Kethvar archives, at least 60% of all intelligent life in the galaxy. That means not just humans, but every species capable of evolution." The room fell silent. The scope of what they were suggesting was enormous. It meant contacting alien civilizations, convincing them to undergo evolution, and creating a galaxy-spanning network of enhanced minds. All while fighting off the Devourers and dealing with human political resistance. "There's something else," Maya Chen said quietly. "I've been analyzing the Harbinger encounters. They're not just random attacks. The creatures are studying us, learning our capabilities. Each battle teaches them more about human tactics and technology." Carl Johnson leaned forward. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the Harbingers aren't trying to destroy colonies yet. They're testing our defenses, figuring out our weaknesses. When the main fleet arrives, they'll know exactly how to counter everything we can do." The implications were terrifying. Humanity had been fighting practice battles while the real enemy gathered intelligence. Every victory had actually given the Devourers more information about human capabilities and limitations. Jake stood and walked to the window overlooking Europa's ice-covered surface. In the distance, Jupiter's great red spot swirled like a cosmic eye watching their desperate preparations. "We have 8 months, he said finally. 8 months to unite a divided humanity, contact alien civilizations, convince them to evolve, and create a galaxy-wide defense network. All while fighting a civil war and preparing for the greatest threat in galactic history." Susan Parker joined him at the window. "When you put it like that, it sounds impossible." Jake smiled, and for a moment he looked like the simple explorer he had been 11 years ago. "Humanity has always done the impossible, Susan. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that should have ended our species. We've spread across the stars despite having no natural ability to fly. We've built civilizations on worlds that wanted to kill us." He turned to face the assembled evolved humans. "The Devourers have consumed 17 galaxies, but they've never faced anything like humanity before. They've never encountered a species that grows stronger through diversity, that finds unity in individuality, that can evolve while staying true to what they are." Emma Walsh nodded. "The Kethvar failed because they lost themselves in the group mind. But we've learned from their mistakes. We can evolve without losing our humanity. Then we have work to do," Susan said. 8 months to save the galaxy. Let's get started." As the evolved humans began planning humanity's greatest challenge, the Devourer fleet continued its approach through the void between galaxies. Ancient beyond human comprehension, they had consumed countless civilizations across cosmic history. But for the first time in eons, they were approaching a galaxy that might actually fight back and win. The final phase of the war for galactic survival was about to begin. Admiral Carter tried to keep the peace, but she was fighting a losing battle. Blake's purists had gained support after the loss of New Colorado. Many humans would rather face extinction than change what they were. The fear of losing their humanity was stronger than the fear of death. Dr. Foster made one last attempt at compromise. She proposed creating defensive technologies that could protect colonies without requiring human evolution. Her team had developed quantum shields and reality anchors that might slow down the harbingers. But her research needed more time, and time was running out. The third harbinger was moving toward the new Shanghai colony, home to 12 million people. The evolved humans prepared for another battle, but they knew the political situation was becoming impossible. They were caught between the cosmic threat of the Devourers and the very human fear of change. Jake stood once again at the observation window, watching Earth turn below. The planet looked peaceful from space, but he knew that fear and anger were tearing humanity apart. The greatest threat to human survival might not be the Devourers at all. It might be humanity's inability to choose evolution over extinction. The war for humanity's future had begun, and the enemy was not just coming from outside the galaxy. It was growing inside human hearts, in the ancient fear of becoming something new. Admiral Lisa Carter declared emergency powers on a cold Thursday morning. The news came over every communication channel in human space at exactly 800 hours. Senator Richard Blake's face appeared on screens across Mars 15 minutes later, calling her a traitor to democracy and humanity itself. The Civil War had begun. Lisa stood in the command center deep beneath Geneva, surrounded by holographic displays showing the movement of ships across human space. Half the fleet had stayed loyal to Earth's government. The other half had joined Blake's purist movement on Mars. Dr. Amanda Foster's moderates controlled only a few research stations and some civilian transports. Status report, Lisa ordered. Captain Susan Parker appeared on the main screen from the bridge of her new ship, the HFY Evolution. The vessel was a hybrid of human engineering and Kethvar technology, its hull covered with the same flowing metal patterns as the Endeavour. "We have 47 ships ready for combat, Admiral," Susan reported. "All crews have undergone at least partial evolution. We can fight the Harbingers directly now." Lisa nodded, but her expression remained grim. "What about the colonies? New Shanghai is under evacuation. We have 3 days before the second Harbinger arrives. The colony ships can carry maybe half the population. And the other half?" Susan's evolved eyes showed pain that was entirely human. "We'll do our best to protect them, Admiral. But 12 million people is a lot to defend." Jake Morrison entered the command center with his original crew. They had been working day and night to train the new evolved humans and upgrade Earth's defenses. The stress showed on their faces, despite their enhanced abilities. "The quantum shield generators are online," Emma Walsh reported. "They won't stop a Harbinger, but they might slow one down long enough to evacuate a planet." Tony Rodriguez pulled up technical schematics on a side display. "The bioneural interfaces are working better than expected. Humans who can't undergo full evolution can still connect with our combat network during battles." Lisa studied the data. The technology was impressive, but it required accepting that humanity needed to change. Every system, every weapon, every defense relied on some level of human modification. The old ways of fighting simply would not work against enemies that could alter reality itself. "What about Blake's people?" Lisa asked. Jake's expression darkened. "They're preparing something. Our intelligence suggests they've been in contact with certain military commanders who oppose the evolution program. There are rumors of a major operation planned." The rumors proved true 3 days later. As the second Harbinger approached New Shanghai, Blake's purist fleet launched a surprise attack on the moon bases where evolution research was taking place. They called it Operation Pure Light and claimed they were saving humanity from alien contamination. The attack came without warning during the night shift. Purist Marines stormed the research facilities while their ships bombarded the defense stations. Dr. Foster's people had no military training and could not fight back effectively. Within 6 hours, Blake's forces had destroyed most of the evolution research and captured dozens of partially evolved humans. Lisa watched the battle reports with growing anger. Blake's people were fighting other humans while cosmic horrors threatened to devour the entire galaxy. It was the same mistake the Kethvar had made, turning against each other when they should have been united against the real enemy. "Send the Evolution and her escort group to New Shanghai," Lisa ordered. "We can't help Foster's people now, but we can still save 12 million colonists." The battle for New Shanghai lasted 18 hours. Susan Parker led her ships against the second Harbinger, while the colony evacuation continued below. The creature was stronger than the first one, its reality warping abilities more refined. It turned the colony's skyscrapers into twisted spires of impossible geometry, and changed the local gravity to pull objects in random directions. But the evolved humans had learned from their first encounter. Carl Johnson led boarding parties using ships that could phase between dimensions. Maya Chen coordinated the defense network, her enhanced mind processing thousands of tactical variables simultaneously. The partially evolved crew members fought with weapons that existed partially outside normal space. The Harbinger fought back by corrupting the laws of physics around the battle zone. Time moved backward in some areas and stopped completely in others. The evolved humans found themselves aging years in seconds or becoming children again as temporal waves washed over them. Reality became fluid and dangerous. Susan Parker made the crucial decision that saved New Shanghai. Instead of trying to destroy the Harbinger, she focused on containing it. Her ships formed a sphere around the entity, while quantum generators created a pocket of stable space-time. The Harbinger found itself trapped in a bubble where its powers could not spread to the colony below. The secret meeting took place in the abandoned mining tunnels of Ceres. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around a circular table, their various forms casting strange shadows in the dim light. Jake Morrison stood at the center, his evolved mind translating between dozens of different languages and thought patterns. The crystalline Zephyrians were the first to answer our call, Emma Walsh explained to the assembled beings. They've already detected Devourer scouts in their home system. The Zephyrian speaker was a tall being made of living crystal that changed colors as it communicated. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Our scientists confirm the human reports, it said. Reality distortions are increasing near our outer worlds. We are willing to attempt this evolution process. The gas cloud nebulans spoke next through a translation device that turned their chemical signals into words. Our people exist in a state of constant change. We see no danger in further evolution if it means survival. But not all the species agreed. The machine intelligence constructs buzzed with electronic disagreement. Your proposal requires trust in biological processes we do not understand. We prefer to enhance our existing systems rather than undergo organic modification. Jake stepped forward. The Kethvar archives show that purely technological solutions won't work. The Devourers can corrupt any system, any program, any artificial intelligence. Only biological consciousness combined with technological enhancement can resist their influence. The debate continued for hours. Some species feared losing their identity in the proposed galaxy-wide network. Others worried that humans were trying to control other civilizations. A few simply could not believe that the threat was real enough to justify such drastic changes. Meanwhile, on Earth, Senator Blake was launching his final assault on the evolution program. His purist forces had taken control of 3 major colonies and were threatening to attack Earth itself. Blake appeared on every communication channel, his voice filled with righteous anger. They want to destroy what makes us human, Blake declared. These so-called evolved beings are no longer our species. They're alien parasites wearing human faces. We must stop them before they infect every man, woman, and child in human space. Blake's words found support among people who were terrified of change. Millions of humans joined his cause, believing that death as humans was better than survival as something else. The Civil War spread across the colonies as families split apart and friends became enemies. Admiral Lisa Carter watched the political situation collapse from her command bunker. Her forces were still loyal, but they were outnumbered by Blake's supporters. The evolved humans were powerful in battle, but there were only a few hundred of them against billions of unmodified humans. We're running out of time, Lisa said to Jake during their daily briefing. The alien species won't commit without seeing unity among humans. And Blake's people are gaining support every day. Jake nodded grimly. The third Harbinger is moving toward the Alpha Centauri system. If it takes that colony, Blake will have proof that we can't protect everyone. How long until the main fleet arrives? 6 weeks, Emma Walsh answered from her position at the sensor console. Maybe less. The Devourers have been accelerating since our battles with the Harbingers. They know we're preparing to resist. The crisis came to a head when the third Harbinger reached Alpha Centauri. This creature was different from the others, more intelligent and more powerful. Instead of attacking immediately, it began communicating with the colonists, promising them safety if they rejected the evolution program. Join us willingly, the Harbinger's voice echoed across the colony's communication networks. We offer peace, stability, eternal order. The humans who claim to help you only bring chaos and change. Some colonists believed the creature's lies. They formed a welcoming committee and prepared to surrender their world to the Harbinger. But others remembered the fate of New Colorado and called for help from the evolved humans. Susan Parker led the rescue mission, but she arrived to find the colony in civil war. Half the population wanted to surrender to the Harbinger, while the other half begged for evacuation. The Harbinger itself had begun its work, turning willing colonists into crystal statues that sang with alien voices. "We can't save them all," Carl Johnson reported from his ship. "The Harbinger has corrupted too much of the colony. Reality is breaking down across half the planet." Susan made the hardest decision of her life. She ordered the evacuation of only those colonists who wanted to leave, while using quantum bombs to contain the Harbinger and its willing servants. Over 2 million people died that day, but the alternative was letting the creature spread its corruption to other worlds. The news of Alpha Centauri's partial destruction broke Blake's political movement. Videos of colonists willingly joining the Harbinger showed people what surrender to the Devourers really meant. Support for the purest cause collapsed as humans realized that the choice was not between staying human or becoming something else. It was between evolution or extinction. Dr. Amanda Foster finally got her chance to present the compromise she had been working on for months. Her research had created a limited evolution process that enhanced human abilities without the full transformation. People could become stronger, smarter, and more resistant to Harbinger influence while keeping their original appearance and personality. "We call it evolutionary partnership," Foster explained to the Emergency Council. "Humans work with the technology instead of being changed by it. It's not as powerful as full evolution, but it allows people to contribute to the galaxy-wide network without losing what they consider essentially human." Millions of people volunteered for Foster's process. They became the bridge between evolved and unmodified humans, able to communicate with both groups and coordinate the growing resistance network. The galaxy-wide consciousness began to take shape as species after species joined the alliance. The Zephyrians evolved first, their crystal bodies adapting easily to the biotechnology. The Nebulans followed, their gaseous forms becoming more coherent and focused. Even the reluctant constructs agreed to biomechanical integration after seeing the fate of Alpha Centauri. Jake stood in the command center as reports came in from across the galaxy. The network was growing faster than anyone had expected. Each new species brought different abilities and perspectives to the collective consciousness. But unlike the failed Kethafar experiment, individual personalities remained strong within the group mind. "Network at 47% coverage," Maya Chen reported. "We need 13% more for minimum effectiveness." "The Devourer fleet has entered the galaxy's outer rim," Tony Rodriguez announced. "First contact in 72 hours. Emma Walsh looked up from her console. "Jake, there's something else. The network is showing us things the archives never mentioned. The Devourers aren't just mindless destroyers. They're afraid of something." Jake felt the revelation flow through the network consciousness. The Devourers consumed galaxies not from hunger, but from fear. They were trying to prevent something from awakening, something that could only exist in a universe filled with evolved consciousness. "They're afraid of what we're becoming," Jake realized. "A galaxy-wide mind that can think on cosmic scales. They know that if we succeed, we'll be able to understand and counter their true nature." The final battle began at the Galactic edge, where the first Devourer ships encountered the evolved alliance. The enemy vessels were vast beyond comprehension, each one larger than Earth's solar system. They carried weapons that could unmake stars and shields that existed outside normal space-time. But the galaxy-wide network fought back with abilities the Devourers had never encountered. Entire star systems became weapons, their fusion fires directed by the collective consciousness. Planets served as processing nodes, calculating battle strategies across multiple dimensions. The galaxy itself had become a living entity capable of defending itself. Susan Parker led the frontline fighters, her ship phasing between dimensions as she attacked Devourer vessels from impossible angles. Carl Johnson coordinated planetary defenses that turned worlds into fortress points in space. Maya Chen managed the network connections that kept billions of minds working together without losing their individuality. The battle raged for weeks. The Devourers threw everything they had at the Evolved Alliance, using weapons that had destroyed 17 previous galaxies. But humanity's gift for adaptation and creativity proved decisive. Every Devourer tactic was countered by new strategies developed by the collective mind. In the end, the victory came not through destruction, but through understanding. The galaxy-wide consciousness reached out to the Devourers and showed them a new way to exist. Instead of consuming organized matter to prevent cosmic awakening, they could feed on the chaotic energy that existed between galaxy clusters. The ancient entities, faced with a choice between eternal war or peaceful coexistence, chose peace. They withdrew from the Milky Way and began seeking nourishment in the vast emptiness between galaxies, where their feeding would not destroy inhabited worlds. Jake Morrison stood once again at an observation window, but now he looked out at a galaxy transformed. Stars pulsed with conscious thought, planets hummed with the voices of billions of evolved beings, and the space between worlds carried messages in languages that had never existed before. Captain Morrison had become Ambassador Morrison, representing the Evolved Alliance in its first contact with other galaxy-spanning consciousnesses. The network had detected signals from distant galaxies, suggesting that the process was spreading across the universe. Humanity had not just survived the greatest threat in galactic history. They had led the transformation of the Milky Way into something unprecedented, a galaxy that could think, feel, and defend itself while preserving the individuality and creativity of every being within it. The greatest adventure in human history was just beginning. Across the universe, other galaxies were learning to evolve and awakening to cosmic consciousness. Humanity's gift for adaptation and unity and diversity had become the template for the next stage of universal evolution. Senator Blake, now an old man on a peaceful colony world, looked up at stars that sang with alien voices and admitted that perhaps change was not always the enemy of what it meant to be human. Sometimes evolution was the only way to remain true to the best parts of yourself while becoming something greater than you ever imagined possible.